Konnichiwa. This is the Shogun's team. This is a look at the historical background and how to play the new game Fed Up. It's from the Bill of Rights Institute. It's an educational game with the theme of the debate between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. It's 10 to 30 minutes, 4 to 12 players. And just in the interest of full disclosure, I do have a relationship with the Bill of Rights Institute in my side hustle. As you know, when I'm not a major YouTube star here, I do have a side hustle in social studies, and I have used a number of the materials and resources from the Bill of Rights Institute. I've attended a number of their workshops, and recently I had a scholarship from the Bill of Rights Institute, and that scholarship was able to help me get to the NCSS Social Studies Conference where the Bill of Rights Institute was, where they gave me a copy of this game to try out, to play, and to use with my students in my side hustle. So just in the interest of full disclosure, I do have a relationship with the Bill of Rights Institute, and they did give me a copy of this game. Now, the Bill of Rights Institute is an organization that produces many excellent resources and curriculum for students and teachers in government and U.S. history, the social sciences, civics, and they have a wonderful website and a wonderful team. They do a lot of workshops. They got a lot of materials on YouTube, but they have a lot of curriculum for a civics class, a government class, a U.S. history class, an AP government class, or an AP US. They got lots of great resources. That's free. You go to their website, and this is a new resource they are trying out. It is a game based on the debate between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. So just a little historical background. The Federalists tended to be from maybe the North or New England, or from closer to the coast, and they tended to favor a stronger central government. The Anti-Federalists tended to be Southern, tended to be maybe more agricultural, and they wanted more power to the states. What were they debating? The ratification of the Constitution. So these aren't the first two political parties yet. That's going to come later when Hamilton's financial plan divides Washington's cabinet, and then you get the emergence of the Federalist political party, which was behind Hamilton and had what we would call a loose interpretation of the Constitution, kind of like yoga pants interpretation, whereas the Democratic Republicans, most confusing name in teaching of this, Democratic Republicans, nothing to do with the Democrats and Republicans of today, but that was the party that would have followed Jefferson, and Jefferson was the strict interpretation of the Constitution, kind of like your, if you think about, the pants that maybe the emo music would have worn, the tight pants, the ones that you can't pull up, because whereas the Federalist elastic clause in the Constitution you could stretch, the Anti-Federalists didn't want to stretch the Constitution, so they were like skinny jeans. But that's later. The Federalist Anti-Federalist debate, which is the theme of Fed Up, dealt with the ratification of the Constitution. Founding fathers did not want to have another king, so their first government, the first government of the United States, the government that helped us win the Revolution, was known as the Articles of Confederation. It was a weak central government on purpose because they didn't want to have a strong government, a strong central federal government, because that was what we were leaving. And the Articles does get bashed a lot, but keep in mind that the Articles led to such things as the Northwest Ordinances, which led to how we admit states into the Union. It also had some of the earliest bans on the spread of slavery. So while the Articles will ultimately be scrapped, it did have some accomplishments in terms of, again, being our government that got us through the Revolution, Northwest Ordinances, rules for statehood, and for limiting slavery in the Northwest territories. But after the near thing of Shays' Rebellion, when the federal government had a very difficult time putting down Shays' Rebellion in Massachusetts, people like Hamilton, Madison, and George Washington came to the conclusion that we needed to first fix the articles, then realized that we should have a new constitution. So the two groups in the ratification debate are the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, and that's the theme of this game. So the Federalists had a very strong, unified message with regards to ratification, best exemplified by the use of the written writing of the Federalist Papers, which were particular for the New York debate, where ratification was not a sure thing, and you had Madison and Hamilton and John Jay under the pseudonym of Publius will write a series of essays helping to convince the people of New York to ratify the Constitution. Some of those famous Federalist papers included Federalist 10, which discussed factions and the need for a large republic and pluralism. Federalist 51, which talked about the separation of powers. Some other famous Federalist papers, 78, 84, some of those dealt with issues such as, the executive, energy in the executive, judicial review, which will eventually be used by Marshall and Marbury versus Madison, and even Hamilton discussing why a Bill of Rights was not needed because he felt there were enough protections in the Constitution. The Anti-Federalists had a less coherent message because different states had different reasons for opposing ratification. But the main reason, if we were going to kind of find the common reason, was they were afraid the federal government was going to become too powerful. Patrick Henry, George Mason, Yates, they are some of the anti-federalist leaders. Yates was probably Brutus, who wrote one of the most famous anti-federalist papers, Brutus I, which talked about a large republic not being a good idea, that there'd be too many factions, things wouldn't get done. They were also worried about state governments becoming weakened. They were worried about state judicial branches being too weakened. They were worried about the federal government having a strong standing army. Brutus I is a very important document, and then the Anti-Federalists felt that there needed to be a Bill of Rights. In the end, a compromise is made. The Constitution will be ratified, and then later a Bill of Rights is added to the Constitution to protect your civil liberties, to protect you from this new federal government. And then you can have, separation of powers. You can have federalism, the division between state and federal governments. So this game is based on the debate between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. So the goal of this game is to spell out law of the land. So on these cards here, which have terms mostly from the Federalist Papers, but from other important documents in early U.S. history, you're going to have these terms. On the back of the term, when you win the cards, they give you letters, and you're going to want your side, either the Federalists or the Anti-Federalists, to be the first ones to spell out law of the land. So this game, again, the Bill of Rights Institute, they create materials to be used in education. This game could be used in the classroom, again, at a 10 to 30 minute player count. It would fit in a class period. 4 to 12 players, you can get a lot of kids in with one deck. Again, depending on your class size, you would probably need a couple decks unless you had a real small class. This would also work very well for homeschooling, but if you're going to homeschool, again, keep in mind this game works better with a bigger player count. So again, if you're going to homeschool, maybe have a few homeschool kids together, or maybe if you have a large family. It would certainly work for homeschoolers, but you're going to want to have more players. So each side, you're going to have a scribe. So here's where the game's a little bit like the mind, because if you know the mind, you can't communicate certain things. So you're going to get a card. When each side goes, you can get a card. Here you're going to rank the cards from the most to the least. So you can get this term. And then based on these words from the founding documents, how would, again, if you're playing as the Federalists or the Anti-Federalists, how would they have ranked these terms in terms of the prompt of agreeable? So your scribe, he or she will rank the cards the way they think. Again, whether you're the Federalist or the Anti-Federalist, they will rank it based on what they think the answer was. Then the rest of the team will then rank it, again, in this case of this card, most to least. They will rank it. They will come to an agreement. So you got to work together with your team. It requires a lot of communication. So again, in a lot of board games, card games, they talk about, solitaire. This is not a solitaire type game. This one you got to actually communicate with people. So then your team is going to come up, the rest of the team, without talking to the scribe. So the scribe has ranked them already. You can use a dry erase. The rest of the team is going to rank it, and then you're going to compare the two. And then where you rank the same, you're going to win the card, and you get the letter. And where you were wrong, the other side will get the letters. And then you'll go back and forth until someone spells out law of the land. So again, the scribe, they're going to look at the prompt, they're going to look at the cards, they're going to rank, they're going to keep this secret, they're not going to communicate. Then the rest of the team will work together to come up with their ranking, not telling the scribe. And then when you reveal, you're going to see how many that you would have won, and then the cards go to the other side, and then the other side does the same thing. Again, they're going to get another card. And again, same thing. This one's go most to least. Critical, they'll get new terms. So it creates a lot of discussion. And I think this format could also work for a number of issues where you're kind of doing a both sides in a government or a history class. So you could easily adapt this to, say, again, Federalists versus Democratic Republicans. You could move it to the Democratic Party versus the Whigs. You can do it to foreign policy issue, isolation versus people that wanted to be in alliances. I mean, there's so many topics in history or government that you could adapt a game like this. So it's a very simple game to teach, but it gets people talking. You're using the wording of the important documents that, whether you're teaching government or history, that you want people to know. Again, a lot of these are going to come directly from the Federalist Papers, and it gets people talking to each other. And then you got that little element of, the mind where you can't communicate and you're going to compare, the answers. Again, you're trying to spell out law of the land. So again, certainly something you can use to homeschool. But again, if you're going to do it at homeschool, make sure that you have enough players. And again, it definitely can work in a classroom. Just got to figure out how many decks you would need. Again, depending on your class size. So a fun little game, and actually teaches you something. Again, this format can be used for a number of topics. So fun way to teach the principles, a good way to have that discussion between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. How would they, a Federalist look at the Anti-Federalists look at this idea of agreeable or critical or let's see another one we got here, contentious. And again, you just need, in addition to this little deck of cards, you just need a couple dry erase markers. So we want to thank the Bill of Rights Institute for giving us this game to try out and show you how to play. And I can't wait to bring it to the other people at my side hustle in social studies, bring it to the scholars in my side hustle in social studies. And again, just in the interest of disclosure, they did give me a copy of the game, and I do have a relationship with the Bill of Rights Institute, which again is a great resource for students and teachers for civics, government, history, a lot of good resources, and also for students, a lot of contests and scholarship opportunities, a lot of things for students to get involved in civic education. So this is a look at Fed Up. This is the Shogunstein out.